Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where we talk to normal, everyday people about their lived experiences of mental health, the way they see mental health in the world. Today, I'm really happy to be joined by Henriette Lang, who will talk to us about her experiences. Henriette, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. So in accordance with my normal way of doing this, I'm going to introduce Henriette, just tell you how I know her, where we've crossed paths and where we've met before. And then I'm going to ask you to do your introduction to the world, let them know a little bit about you and what you do. So Henriette and I met about 2 years ago, I think. We worked out at the This Can Happen conference, an amazing conference that talks all things mental health within the workplace. Encourage anybody to take a look at the events that they host. They are just amazing. We had some mutual conversations about things that we're both involved with when it comes to mental health and our own experiences. So it's just been a lovely ongoing conversation. We keep in touch, we check in with each other, and I think that's just marvelous. Henriette has children too, so there's a mutual sort of connection through children, and yeah, she's just a great human, really. So lucky to have you here, Henriette. Thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind words of you to say about me. I'm not sure whether I'm just a great human, but I've had a lot of experience in my life with various things. Yeah, as you said, well, my name is Henriette. I'm half Danish, half Norwegian, which is, so I was brought up in Norway. And I lived a couple of years in Denmark before I came over to England as an au pair many moons ago. So that's how I landed in England. I work for This Can Happen, which is a great workplace mental health company. I love my job, to be honest with you. It's a great inspirational, passionate company where we talk to companies about how to empower mental health in the workplace. And we're going from strength to strength. And I really enjoy that job. I've had a few experiences with mental health throughout my life. The reason I got into This Can Happen, actually, to start with that, was because I wrote a book with a guy called Stu Baker. And we started as friends and we are now live together. So that was a bit of a journey. We wrote a book called The Mindset Triangle Book, and it's all about keeping yourself healthy through 3 simple steps with healthy eating, exercise and good sleep. And in that book, we interviewed lots of different people who live with mental illness. And one of which was the Johnny Benjamin and Neil Laybourne story. And Johnny Benjamin and Neil Laybourne started This Can Happen with Zoe Sinclair. So they then asked me if I wanted to get on board. So that's how I got involved with This Can Happen, through my own book. Yeah, so I wrote the book because I had a great interest in mental health. And the reason why is that when I grew up, my dad lived with depression. And he had a kind of a meltdown attempt, what you want to call it, when I was about 18. And it had a massive impact on the whole family. I mean, I'm happy to say that he's a lot better now. He's in his 70s. He's doing really well. He's weaned himself off the medication. But I remember the years when he struggles with his depression. And I think in an adult life now, I can understand what he went through so much better than I could when I was young,
Yeah, of course.
And then obviously I have 3 kids. I had 4 children. My eldest daughter was born 18 years ago this year. She died 4 hours after birth. There was complications and she had a genetic disorder. And obviously my mental health, without needless to say, was very down after she died. The shock of losing a first child, the grief of losing a child, which you think that's not supposed to happen. And the lack of help that you got in those days when you lost a child. I mean, I was also put, I know we were talking about this before and everything, and after she was born, I was put into a side wing in a little room, but it was by the delivery ward, so I could hear all the babies crying and coming back and forth all the time. And I listened to that all the night, of the first night after she died. And my mental health after that took a massive turn. And I got through it. I think one thing I realized very early on with grief and mental health was that there's no shortcut. There's literally no shortcut through grief. You have to just do it. And there's no other option. And every single painful step you just have to go through. And that was it. So that was the one side, and then I was very lucky to have 3 alive children after that. And I got a 16-year-old daughter, and I got an 11-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And my 11-year-old son was diagnosed with highly functioning autism when he was, I think he was about 8. And I knew when he was diagnosed, I knew from an early age that he was, there was something going on. So for me, the diagnosis was just a relief, really, to have a bit of ammunition to use to go into school to say, we need help. And it was a little bit of relief for him as well, actually. I told him when he was diagnosed, I told him about it, because I always believe in being honest and open about mental health. So I speak to my kids very openly about everything. And when I told him about it, he said, that makes sense, he said. Okay. So he felt it was quite good. And I told him that his autism is a superpower. It doesn't define him. We often talk about when he does things or something happen, I often say to him, is that Matthias who did that, or is that autism Matthias who did that? Because I don't want the autism to define him and take over him and make him feel like that's all I am. Because he's Matthias who lives with autism, so I don't want it to take over him in that sense. So yeah, and then I think that's it about me. Is there anything else?
Well, we're going to get into more conversation about it. Lovely. What a great introduction. Thank you so much for sharing as well, and sharing those realities and those moments that are difficult to sometimes, for a lot of people, and for anybody listening to this, of course, the loss of a child at birth is a tragic event. And the recognition of that needs to be made for any organization. I think that's something, from your perspective, Henriette, that, an organization's support is critical in this. I know you've had some conversations recently. We were talking, the beautiful thing is we have these conversations before, and then we can go into them again in this detail. Do you want to talk about that thing around support? Because I do want to just touch on that, please, because I think it's really important, because there'll be a lot of people potentially who will go through similar experiences, unfortunately.
Definitely. I mean, the loss of a child is a massive thing to go through in your life, and it's very, very key to have the right kind of support and strategies into place in the workplace to look after the person, and not expecting them to just click their fingers and then they're back. This is, well, I would also say that's exactly the same thing if you have I don't want to call it a miscarriage at week 20, because I don't think it's a miscarriage. I think it's a loss of a child. But even if whatever stage it happens through a pregnancy or after your child is born, it's still a grief, because you have the same aspirations for that child that you would have had as soon as they're born. So recognizing that is important, plus the support. So when I lost my daughter, I was working as an IT consultant in London, many days, and a few days in London, a few days up in Birmingham where I live. And within 2 weeks, I had a phone call to say, when are you coming back to work? And I was like, not yet. I still got maternity leave. So I had paid maternity leave for 3 months. And they were like, yeah, but you don't need to take that now, do you? You haven't got your child. And I was just like, well, I needed more now than ever. And there was just no understanding of, and they wanted me to come back full time straight away. And the environment was very male dominated. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's more in the sense that nobody knew how to talk to me or approach me. Sure. So the kind of thing that people used to say to think that they would help, they would say things like, oh, you can always have another baby, you're young, so don't worry about it. I was 20, 26, 27, and they were like, oh, you're young, so you can just have another baby and it will be fine. But I wanted that baby, I wanted her. So and people trying to meaning well, but it didn't really resonate very well. And this, obviously the workplace weren't supportive at all. So I ended up quitting that job because the mere thought of having to go back to that workplace sent total anxiety into me. So I thought, I can't do that. So I quit that job. And I haven't been an IT consultant since, and that's 18 years ago.
You know what? Their loss is the mental health world's gain. That's their problem. Nothing to do with that. It's really interesting when you say about the silver lining of that. There's a wonderful video. I don't know if you've seen it. The Brené Brown empathy versus sympathy video, which really brings that to life. People have this wonderful way of thinking they're being empathetic when actually they're just saying, yeah, but you can always have another child, and you can always do this, and no useful sentence ever started with at least. Remember that, share that thought, be careful with it, because having the right support at the right time is so critical. And I know you provide support to others. I know you're very, instrumental in sort of helping support people who are struggling with something that you're planning for the future as well, which is just incredible and amazing, of course. Can you talk a little bit about that, sort of supporting others then through their challenges?
Definitely. I know that my co-author and partner, Stu Baker, he won't mind me saying this. I think he'd probably think it's great.
Stu's brilliant, by the way. Stuart, sending you all the best if you're listening to this.
Oh, definitely will. He's come a long way. I mean, he's lived with depression throughout years since he was in the Navy. And when I met him, he was at a very, very low point and had very difficult times and was on medication. But since since his, what he would call his attempt 3 years ago, he's come a long way. He's now working as a general manager for a large gym company. He's off medication. He balances himself very, very well. He's just learned so much about himself, and I'm incredibly proud of the fact that he's done that. And that is due to pure perseverance, but on his own side to do that. And obviously, I've been with him while he's had low points. I mean, we've had several suicide attempts and suicidal ideations, and through conversations of I can tell when he's starting to go low, by the way. So it's like with your daughter, you can see when things are triggers, and you can notice, okay, we're on this path now, so we need to be more vigilant. So I can tell when he's going into a low patch, and we can talk about it. So we've developed a little bit of a language as well to say, okay, where are you at, and are we talking suicidal ideations? And we're very open and honest about that, because it makes it easier for a partner to actually support and help. And I think I hate the word carer for someone. I don't like that word. I think as a support person, or the nearest support person for somebody who's living with mental illness, I think it's vital to understand that you can't fix anything. Literally can't fix anything for anyone. You can't talk them out of anything or change anything for them. It's their mindset. All you can do is to be support. So I don't tell Stu what to do, or you should do this or do that. That never comes into our conversation. It's literally just hug, give him a hug and say, I'm here, just little things that you can do. Make it acceptable for them to take that time out. If they need a nap on the sofa, put a blanket over them. It's these small basic things that you can help to be supportive and caring for somebody when they're living with their mental illness. And you and I have talked about this before, because I checked in with you for being a carer for your daughter. You've checked in with me. And I think the difficulty, I suppose, is that there's not much help around for the people who are around the person who's living with mental illness. And I think that's same thing as with my son, with his diagnosis. There's nobody who asks me how I'm doing and how I'm getting on with it. Nobody will ask that. That's up to me to get the support and find it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are carers, who are naturally caring for others, are the worst ones to look after themselves.
Oh, yeah. 100%. It's so true, isn't it? And there is just such a big conversation around this. I love the thought of, nearest support person. It's really important for anybody that's listening who is caring or supporting somebody that is really struggling. And we're talking about some serious things, serious illnesses. If you think about physical illnesses, we often use that as the sort of the parallel universe, don't we? We'll bend over backwards to do anything to support somebody that's going through treatment for whatever the illness is, cancer or so on, etc. We will do everything we can within our powers. The challenge we have with this is we don't always know what's available, what we can do, and that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges with mental ill health, is because every illness is so unique to the individual. Yeah. Sometimes you have very high functioning, and high functioning within all different types of things, illnesses. Yeah. With my daughter's ASD diagnosis, she has high functioning autism, and so she does very well, but she also struggles really badly with situations. And I think this is just a conversation to start, this recognition for all of us. We're all carers wherever we are, in our life, whether that's caring for our parents, for our children, for our best friends, for our communities. There is a big burden of responsibility in that. And when you feel that you've got everything under control is likely to be the moment where you're going to start to then everything will start to unravel. Do you feel that?
Yeah, we were talking about this, weren't we? The fact that, yeah, because I think when you're in I'm one of those people. I'm quite good at in a crisis situation. I can keep control. I'm very calm, take it easy, and sort everything out. And then afterwards, I go, phew, you know, what happened there?
Yeah.
And I react. It's a bit like comparing it to my son's meltdowns. When he has them, they are long and they take an hour and a half at least. And during the meltdown, I know that there's nothing I can do apart from just sitting there and being there.
Yep.
If I leave, he gets more stressed, but I can't touch him. So I just sit there. It ends up me cradling and cuddling him. That's how it ends. And then we chat about it. So, but after that whole period, I can be really calm and collected and everything like that. But then once he's happy and he's settled and all the rest of it, and about an hour after, I can feel like all drained. And I think that's when you sort of forget to take that time out to look after yourself, you know. And I think that happens quite a lot. And then it's the same thing with Stu on his last huge dip that he had. I just realized as well that I forget to think about me in that. I'm getting better at it, I must say, because I think when he also has a low point with his depression, I think as a person nearby, as a support person, I think the most important thing is to know, don't take it personally.
Yep.
Because if you take it on yourself and take it personally and not looking after yourself at the same time, then it's detrimental to yourself, I think. So I try to sort of step out of it. And I know it sounds weird, but it's a bit like having a protective bubble around yourself to say, okay, that's what you're going through at the moment. That's absolutely fine. I'll be here for you. I can do that. I'm just going to protect myself at the same time because I have to, because there's other people that needs your care as well as.
Yeah, and that's really, yeah, because it usually is a bigger and wider community within, you know, you've got other children and of course, you know, there's a responsibility layer in there. So
Yeah.
Talk to me about your self-care then. So this intrigues me. So, you know, we listen, we talk about it, we say we do stuff. Are you good at it? Do you practice self-care regularly? What do you do?
Right, so that I'm going to be honest, I'm good at it in periods of time.
Okay, yeah. So
like one of my self-care is a candle.
Yep.
And I know it's weird, but it gives me an incredible sense of peace and grounding. I am learning to meditate, not for long. I did a bit of a resilience training the other day with Tough Cookie, actually. There's somebody for you as well. With 10 minutes a day where you actually practice just counting your breathing and not having anything in your mind. It's an amazing good reset button. I am a bit of a gym bud. Well, I'm not like over excessive, but I like going to the gym at least once a week. And I set myself realistic goals. I think that's really important to do. I think if you're looking after yourself, be realistic about what you can do for yourself that week. And if you don't go and if you don't do it, don't feel guilty about it, because the guilt is a useless feeling. It doesn't serve any purpose to you whatsoever. So that's my tips for doing it first of all, and then just being realistic. So, you know, eating healthy food, generally healthy, but also having a treat once in a while. You know, if that cake on a Friday afternoon makes you feel happy, then do it. You know, go for a longer walk with the dog the day after to counterbalance if that's the thing. But the guilt in any sense doesn't work. So I do try to look after myself and have some moments out to myself. I went through a divorce about 3 years ago, so my children obviously go to their dad as well, and we try to do a lot of co-parenting and equal amount with the children, both of us. I believe a lot in that, to make it good, best for the children. So I am lucky because Stu goes to see his children on a Sunday, and then I have like a whole Sunday that I can spend time to myself. So I'm lucky in that sense, and I make the most of that time. Make sure I don't just clean the house. Do you know what I mean? Make sure I have some time to read a book or go for a good long walk or things like that.
So it sounds like you've got some good routines going on there, right? And I like this thought that says don't feel guilty, you know, because I think we do, don't we? We often get to that point where it's like, oh, you know, I shouldn't have eaten that, or I should have gone to the gym. And I think there's a thing about having conscious awareness of what you're doing and making that space. And I talk a lot about time. I'm very much this fan of, you know, time is our greatest asset. And I was just talking with another chap on this same conversation recently, and And it just is that realization that time is a valuable asset. You know, it really is for everyone listening. You know, value your time in a different way that says, I can load my day with these great experiences. And I always reflect back to the cartoon of Snoopy and Charlie Brown. I probably mentioned it already on one of these, but it just resonates so much about, you know, Charlie Brown saying you only live once, and Snoopy saying no, you only die once. You live every day. And I think that's so profound, and it's such a perfect sort of analogy of how we should treat our lives. And we shouldn't get overwhelmed by, oh, I haven't done this today, because there's always tomorrow to do it. And you know, that's
I feel like that happens a lot for many people, and I can speak for women in particular, because I saw an article the other day that after COVID, women's roles in the home has gone backwards, like with 25 years. So there's more women who do all the household chores. There's more women who just take care of the children and doing a full-time job at the same time from home. And I got a bit worried about that, because I see a lot of women who put themselves under a huge amount of pressure. To have to be the perfect mom that always does the baking thing when you have to deliver that to school, the mom who always sews the costumes, you know, for any play that they do, the mom who's got all the washing done and everything is sorted out, and the mom who cooks the best tea, you know, dinners, you know, fresh and all that kind of thing. And I've been having this conversation this week actually with some girlfriends, and I've said, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. You know, the kids won't remember that. The kids will remember when you said, let's go to the GP, you know, and have a little treat, you know, or the kids will remember when you just put them into bed and read a story. And I mean, it's the pressure, I think, you put on yourself. And then the guilt comes, you know, the mum guilt, people go around with the work guilt and not spending enough time doing this, that, or the other. And I think that's why I've learned, it's taken me time, I must say, but I have learned through time to stop feeling guilty. So if I haven't done anything, I go, oh well, that didn't happen, but I've done a lot of other things today. And it's turning the negative to the positive. And I know that we can't be positive every single day and all the time. There will always be bad days. We all have mental health. We all dip in our mental health. But if you can learn from your experiences, even the hard times, I mean, I've learned so much from losing my daughter to my dad's depression, to going through divorce 3 years ago, and to Stu's depression. I've learned so many things, and from my son with his autism, I've probably learned loads from him. And all those, if you can take all those things and put them into learnings and the positive and what I got from it. I mean, all my experience with my dad and with my son and with losing my daughter and with Stu, that is going to put good practice when I, you know, hopefully go through some great training in January, you know, to become a Samaritan listener. So it's all going to be a purpose of something. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I love your story. I think your story is so fascinating because it's yours. You own that, and you really do own it. And that's what I'm, you know, hopefully that's what this podcast or this recording is about, is helping the listeners to understand we all have our own story. And what you do so well is you reflect on those moments with a positive light, you know, in a yes, they were hard, yes, they were really challenging life moments, and let's not underestimate what that meant at that moment. But now you can look back at them and go, you know what, it's taught me this wonderful lesson. I'd love you, if you're able to share the comment you made before we recorded this about the conversation you had with your daughter about your lost daughter.
Yeah,
and I found that lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been very, as I said, honest with the children about mental health and mental ill health, and talked openly about them. And I've told them everything about their older sister, because she was my firstborn, and I've got pictures of her. We celebrate her birthday. She's a big part of my life, and she always will be. And my youngest daughter, who's 9, she said this year, because what would have been my oldest daughter's 18th birthday, she said, Mum, don't you just wish that Mikola was here again and she could be here? And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. I said, I'd always wish that. And that's I can't deny that. I said, however, I said, what you have to remember is that Mikola died, and I have learned so much from that, because I've become 100 times better mum to you 3. And she went, really? And I went, yes, because I know what I've got. I have never ever felt that the children were hard work or annoying or anything like that, and there's nothing wrong with that if you do think that as well, because they can take their toll. But I have just always been grateful for the fact that I've got 3 children alive, and her death taught me loads, absolutely loads. And it also taught me how to sympathize and empathize with other people who've gone through the same kind of thing. It gives you a view of life with less judgment, I think.
Brilliant. Yeah, I do love that. That's why I wanted it to go in there, because it was such a nice sort of way to see things and help others to see that reality as well. It doesn't take away the value or the challenge, but it just brings it into a different space. And that's amazing. So a few more minutes left on this. Talk a little bit, if you're okay to, about This Can Happen, so that people listening will know what that means. I'm sure a little plug for that will be amazing.
That would be amazing. I mean, I'm very, very lucky to have found and landed into a job like this, because I absolutely love it. So it combines so many experiences I've had throughout my life, and then I can put it all together in one job. How lucky is that? Yeah. This Can Happen is a company founded by Johnny Benjamin and Neil Laybon and Zoe Sinclair, and it's been going for a couple of years now. So we started as a company to put on a mental health workplace conference. That was the beginning, and that's what we came from. Very small, passionate team who's all had their own experiences, and that's how we started. And we had a conference in 2018 and again in 2019, and from that we also put on the This Can Happen awards. So we also now have an award where people can nominate each other, and companies can nominate themselves in different kind of categories about who's doing the best within workplace mental health. And then this year we had to, through obvious reasons, go online.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's what happened. And we had 3 days online, hitting time zones like Asia and US, as well as, I mean, I was online 2 of the mornings. I was up at 4 online till about 6 p.m. at night. But it was 3 amazing days. We've had so much great feedback from it as well. It's difficult with online to reach people, but it worked really well. And I think what This Can Happen does, there's loads of mental health suppliers in the workplace. It's flooded with it. And what This Can Happen does, I feel, is that we do it with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
That we keep a straight line, the fact that we don't support one supplier or another supplier. We are independent of that, and the speakers we use are people in job roles who has had their own experiences and own stories, and we use a lot through personal storytelling, because just like you said before, everybody has a story, everybody has mental health, and everybody can experience mental ill health at some point in their lives. And learning about how you can support people in the workplace is so important. Somebody said actually on the conference, we was talking about transgender in the workplace as well, and somebody said, if you have a workplace and a person comes in and they only bring 60% of themselves, you don't get enough of that person. So why not help them to bring in 100% of themselves and support them so they can do so? I thought it was simple. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. And it is such a great conference. I've been very lucky to participate in 2 of those conferences. And I've always walked away from there going, this is giving me a lot of encouragement that there's a lot of people doing great stuff. There's a lot of people that are investing in this conversation. Yeah. Continue this conversation. That's the most important thing. This is there for a reason. We need, for anybody that's listening on a podcast, you've got no idea what I'm talking about. It's like when Henriette talked about a candle. She's got a candle behind her. I've got this sign that keeps saying to people, we need to talk about mental health. It's such an important part of who we are. We're all there. We're all, challenged and I
say this all the time. You can talk about your physical health. We discuss, I didn't get to the gym this week. Yeah. My back feels a bit funny. I've been sitting down too much. Yeah. We happily share all those things. But I think we should say things, you know what? I haven't taken any time to myself this week. I feel a bit run down. I'm feeling a little bit negative about everything. And why is that? And I think that's a conversation you should be able to have between friends, and be acceptable to do, and in the workplace to do. You should be able to come into colleague and say, I'm not feeling great today, and okay, what can I do to help? And I think one thing, that positive thing about COVID, to split it into positive again, one positive thing is that mental health has been pushed up on the agenda of loads of workplaces and people in everyday life people. So I feel that if nothing else, is pushed so high up that everybody goes, okay, we all can experience crisis. We can all need some help once in a while. And there's a lot we can do just to support each other. I think that is a key thing.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to see that change. I'm convinced it's happening. I'm convinced that, You know, you're right, there's more people now getting involved in this conversation, and we just have to normalize it, and it will change. You know, we've got serious challenges when it comes to company cultures, you know, because when it's ingrained into a certain way of thinking and a certain style of management and leadership, it can be hard, but it's nothing that can't be achieved, right? I think there's always work to be done, and this conversation is continuing brilliant with some great speed, and conferences like this can enable that conversation to just be raised and elevated a bit more, as do even these small podcasts, you know, to help people recognize normal people have real lives. They're not just the professional that you see on LinkedIn or on a presentation stand or whatever it is. Henriette, we're right at the end. This is like half an hour gone, done. I just want to say a huge thank you from me to you. You reached out, and we were talking about this, and you were more than happy to participate. So thank you so much. I genuinely wish you all the best on your journey to your next level with Samaritans that you did talk about, alluded to. You're going to start your training in January. So I'm so invested into that. Of course, it's my passion as well. So you'll be amazing. So any last words from you want to share, impart any words of wisdom?
I think there's a few things that people should always remember. Don't be too hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Somebody said to me the other day, the way you speak to yourself in your head, speak to yourself as if you were talking to your child with the same love. And I think that's what I want to leave with everybody, just to be kind to yourself.
Oh, thank you. And all the best to you, Stu, and the family. As I always do when I close this, just to say, if anybody is struggling, if you do need any extra support or help, you can always reach out to me, of course, but the Samaritans exist for exactly that purpose. They're there to talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call them on 116 123. I'll get the number right. And but that's a safe space, confidential, and they're not going to judge you on whatever you want to talk about. So always remember there's a resource out there that can help you. Henriette, thank you so much. We do the wave and I'll turn it off, and thank you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.